Stiff ass hat. What's the deal, chat? Let's go ahead and cut that off. They go ahead and try to mute the first part of this song because I'm sure that's copywritten. Anyways, what's the deal, people, man? Today we're gonna get right into another video. If you take a look at the title, you'll see it's. I originally was gonna title it "The Truth Behind Christmas" or "The Truth of Christmas," but this is more like a origin story than like the truth. You know what I'm saying? The truth behind Christmas. You can't really pinpoint it, honestly. It's some multiple different origin stories that come from that. And so I guess we'll go back to I guess the basis of it all, which starts off with the winter solstice. I'm not exactly sure when people started like recognizing the winter solstice as an event or a period of time where they actually would do things, but it was winter solstice is a period of time that starts from December 17th that lasts through January 6th. And that is when like the Northern Europeans or the people of the North, that's when they went through a period where there was no light. It's just 24 hours of darkness. And there's a lot of death throughout that time period. It's a lot of sickness. It's just hard for a lot of people to thrive during that time period. And so during the winter solstice, a lot of people during this time, they held different holidays and occasions where they would actually burn fires that represented the light of the sun. And, you know, they recognize the sun as a life-giving source, which I mean it is. It does. Without the sun, I mean, we wouldn't be able to be alive. But they recognize that, and so they would burn fires to represent that. They held a lot of different. I guess you would call them cultures today, but a lot of different like societies held a lot of different events during this time period. From January 25th to January 6th, the people far north held the Feast of 12 Nights. I'm sorry. The people of the far north held the Feast of the 12 Nights between January 25th to January 6th. When the solstice started on the 27th, so I guess that's kind of where we start to see the date January 25th come into play.
You keep saying January, that's what I'm saying.
I mean December 25th. There was an event called Bacchanalia where the ancient Greece people, they held it for their god. I think his name was, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like Bacchus or something like, or Bacchus. It's spelled Bacchus. Anyways, he was supposedly the god of sport, wine, and play. And I mean, sports, I'm not sure exactly what sport is there, but we know wine, alcohol, and play being sex. Other people, the Romans, they held an event called Saturnalia, and there's a lot more information on Saturnalia than Bacchanalia, but Saturnalia, they held this for their god Saturn, which is supposed to be their sun god, the main sun god. Remember, the light, the sun, the fires, it all kind of connects and coincides and goes back to the same date. But in the 1600s, they actually banned Saturnalia, or they banned what we would call today is Christmas, because it basically the day basically represented drunken antics. They would get drunk and they would have orgies and they would do a bunch of wild out of pocket stuff that, and mind you, Saturnalia is this is before, what we're talking about is before Christians came about. So there, you know, I'm not saying it was before the time of Jesus Christ, but I'm saying this is before like the religion itself, like Christianity was actually there. So they would do these things, and there was a point in time where they actually banned it throughout the 1600s in Europe. And there were actually literally like men that would walk around and they would like ring these bells and scream like "No Christmas, no Christmas," and it was actually a criminal offense that you would be able to be put. You was punishable by jail time if you was caught celebrating this. And that was something brought about by the Scottish Parliament. It wasn't until 1712 where they actually made the celebration of Christmas legal, and then in 1958 it became an official holiday. Now that's for them, wherever the Scottish Parliament is. I don't know that, but that's for them in that time period. Now throughout that, they starting to get into like some of the traditions that we have today. It's like, how did it go from some corrupt, toxic, evil, uh, basically a demon ritual? How did it come from a ritual, a pagan ritual, pagan ceremony, to what we know today? Let's get into some of the things that we have, like as far as your Christmas tree, right? Though the people recognize that evergreen trees, they never lost their leaves. During the time of the winter solstice or during the winter period, they noticed that tree was the one tree that never died. Technically, even though the trees don't die during the winter, that's what they believed. Yeah, and they believed it to be like a special. They believed that evergreen tree to be a special life like giving force as well, and they started cutting them down and putting them in their homes to basically sanctify their houses with said life force. And they would use parts of the tree to create different amulets. We know today as mistletoe and wreaths, and they would make that stuff out of the tree. And soon, they started to hold ceremonies around the Christmas tree and the amulets, and this went on for years, for hundreds of years, before and this is still way before we even have modern day Christmas. These are just traditions and idols, different things that people celebrated and did just during this time period. Mind you, Christmas is not even a thing yet. Ancient Druids of the North, they started ceremonies surrounding the mistletoe and the evergreen tree, and that eventually started like a secretive cult that spread throughout the far northern countries. They speak of a man known as Mithra or Mithras, who is supposedly this mysterious man whose information was low-key wiped from history. But what we do know from him is that he was born on December 25th, that his day of the week was known as the seventh day, which if you look at our calendar, seventh day, well, the first day of the week is Sunday, but ironically, people often refer to that as the seventh day.
Mexican calendars start on Monday.
The Hispanic calendar starts on Monday? I didn't know that. So that's good to know too. And if you take a tidbit there, you said the Hispanic calendar starts on Monday. That's interesting because, and this is a little off topic, but if you look at basically everything that happened with the Mayans and stuff like that, and their calendars. Never mind. I'm not going to get into that.
Wait, but real quick, don't Christian calendars end on Sunday too? Because the 7th day he rest.
Well, that's what they say. There is no Christian calendar because technically the whole country is supposed to be Christian, right? But they say on the 7th day he rests. However, the day of our week, our calendars start off with Sunday. So technically Saturday. That's why some people go to church on Saturday instead of Sunday. You see, it's like so much stuff doesn't really necessarily add up or make sense. But that's talking about this man Mithra or Mithras, whatever you want to refer to him as. He was supposed to be the son of the sun god.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of different names for the sun god, but Mithras was supposed to be the son of the sun god, and they held special sacraments where they ate bread and drank wine, and he supposedly died for the sins of his people. Sounds very, very familiar. Very, very familiar. But Jesus Christ's name wasn't Mithra or Mithras. So what you see here essentially is what I'm gonna break down in a second is a bunch of different information that eventually ties together to make like this web of, I don't know, I'll just call it a web of bullshit, but you call it what you want. But anyways, though, moving forward though, in Rome and Greece, they held these events in Colosseums where they would basically persecute Christians. Now, at this point in time, we are starting to move into a time period, of AD, and we're talking more about the Greeks and the Romans and what it is that they did as far as, because they too also recognize the winter solstice and held, like I said, they would hold these events in Colosseums where they would basically beat and starve wild animals, and then they would throw them into the ring, and they would watch the animals rip the Christians apart. And for them, that would be like watching the Christmas football game. Like that was their sport. Like that was fun to them. That was entertaining to them. That was what they did. And at some point, I guess somebody no longer saw that acceptable, and as a result, no longer saw that acceptable. Sorry about that. Let me see. But yeah, at some point in time, the people no longer enjoyed the torture, and this is, I don't know how you just go from I don't want to see a lion rip him up no more. I don't even know how you ever found that enjoyable to begin with. That, me personally, that would fuck me up. But anyways, they came to a compromise where Christians and they refer to them as the nature worshiping people. They would combine their names, customs, and ceremonies, creating a monotheistic ceremony joined with the pagan ceremony, giving us a lot of modern day holidays. When the Romans converted to Christianity, forming the Roman Catholic Church, they did a lot of funny stuff to justify celebrating their new holidays, right? And so they would say that Jesus was born on December 25th, and basically erased the Mithra dude and replaced him with Jesus and said this is Jesus' date of birth and stuff like that to make it acceptable for the Christians to celebrate this holiday. Because mind you, around this time period, Christians were persecuted.
Yeah.
Christians actually outlawed this because they recognize it for what it is. It seemed a materialistic, drunken day of just wildness. Just wildness. Sex, all just wildness, right?
Where does what? The celebration of Jesus come in? Like
the celebration of Jesus coming. I have no. So the Holy Bible indicates that at the time of Jesus' birth, that the shepherds were tending to their flocks that night. A lot of people speculate that it would have been way too cold, even in the Middle East, for the sheep to be grazing at night. It would have had to have been brought in at night, and it wasn't until around 330s AD where Pope Julius declared that Jesus Christ was the one born on December 25th. So Pope Julius is technically the one responsible for everyone thinking that Jesus was born on December 25th. Mind you, again, the Bible does not give an exact date on when Jesus was born. It just doesn't. And most probably because that day it's not necessarily about the day that he was born. It's really more about,
how he came about.
Not necessarily how he came about. It's not about Jesus himself. It's more about his mission than it was about the man himself. And that's what a lot of people fail to understand. But that's a different conversation for a different day. moving on to how we went from celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ through, pagan holidays and stuff, to how we now celebrate this fat white man in a red suit. Who is Santa Claus, right? And where does he come from? Unfortunately, just like a lot of stuff in our history, the origin of Santa Claus is splintered into many different stories, and they're made to fit social norms of society. So there's a bunch of different depictions of him from a bunch of different origins. Like they say that the OG Santa was a man who rode on a chariot that was pulled by two flying serpents. That doesn't sound very cheerful or jolly or ho-ho to me. That sounds like we need to get inside somewhere. There's a depiction of some believe that Odin, which is, I believe, Odin is the father of Thor, correct? I'm not sure. I believe Odin is Thor's father, which would be Greek mythology.
Yeah.
They say that he rode through the sky with the eight-legged horse, and there's a bunch more. I'm not gonna get into every single Santa origin, whatever.
I only know the old Saint Nick story.
The old Saint Nick story.
Yeah.
Well, it's impossible. They say it's impossible to track a linear timeline of Santa Claus, of how he got from point A to point to what we know today, point A to where we are currently. But like you said, the only origin that you know is of Saint Nicholas, which is most people do only know of that, right? There is one other one that is also brought up, but we'll mention that in a second here. But Saint Nicholas' name or full title is supposedly Saint Nicholas of Myra, and he was known for his gift giving and generosity. Everyone knows that. However, Saint Nicholas he's not the OG Santa, because, as we know, the pagans already had gift givers before Saint Nicholas' birth. They already had a Santa Claus like figure before Saint Nicholas. So at some point in time, Saint Nicholas just become the acceptable representation for Santa Claus. But there's also question as far as Saint Nicholas's origin itself, because at that time, when Saint Nicholas died, his life wasn't recorded. There was another saint that went and wrote all the previous saints' history down after the fact, right? Mm-hmm. And when he did that, they say he was actually another Saint Nicholas of Sion, and that their life stories were actually combined. Now, whether that was intentional or an accident, I don't know. Because, I mean, you're not typing on a computer. You're not, right? I'm pretty sure he was like either ink and quilling or chiseling. So I'm not quite sure how he made that big of a fuck up. But they say that those pieces of information were combined with two different Saint Nicks. So the Saint Nick that we know and love today technically never existed. He was two different entities that they combined into one and wrote a life. You feel me? It's basically a make-believe character. But Saint Nicholas of Sion and Saint Nicholas of Myra, which is who we know, they both lived, and they both,
gave.
I don't know if they both gave. See, because most people believe that Saint Nicholas of Myra is the one who was actually responsible for all the generosity and the gift giving and stuff like that. Like, they really believe that part was him. Now, I would have to do more information, do more research, on the background and history of Saint Nick to actually see exactly. And again, it would be passed down information from other people. So all the information that I get, again, it's just information. Whether or not it's factual or not, you'll have to figure that out yourself. But it is very interesting. And so we can go ahead and fast forward to a time period where they actually this is one thing they did teach us in school. You remember anything about the Protestant Reformation?
I remember that name, yes.
So the Protestant Reformation was when a man named Martin Luther, for those who don't know, was when a man named Martin Luther went to the Catholic Church and he nailed a piece of paper on that door. And it was called the 95 Thesis.
Oh, yeah.
And the 95 Thesis basically outlined all the flaws and all the faults within the Catholic Church, and ultimately divided the church into what they had. I don't know if we still have it today, but it was the Protestant and the Catholics. Protestants and the Catholics, right?
I think they call them Baptists now.
Do you think they call them Baptists now?
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
That's the church I went to. I didn't go to a Catholic church. I went to a Baptist. So.
A Baptist?
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of different denominations now of Christianity. Think like what most people don't understand is like religion is essentially like a gang at this point, especially if you bang Christianity. Especially if you bang you Methodist? Oh, all right. I'm not denominational. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
I'm a Baptist. What's poppin'?
I'm a Baptist. What's popping? Like it's Christianity, bro. Like it's just too much divided. It's too much division within its own religion. So, but again, this is about Christmas, not the origin of Christianity. But so getting back on topic, the Protestants were instructed to not recognize Catholic idols. And that brought about a being that we know today as Kris Kringle, but at the time, her name was Kris Kendall. And I say her because she became like a female angelic figure. That's all the information I had on her. If you want more information on Nicholas of Mira or Cyan, let me know. If you want more information on Kris Kendall, let me know. But now we're getting closer to what we know today, because again, all of this stuff is still like, where are we today? You know what I'm saying? Like we're still thousands of years away, right? Well, not necessarily. So, the Protestants, I guess they were still getting a lot of backlash, because the reason why they even created this idol again is because they still liked. It's all the same. Just like when the pagans, or when they created the Roman Catholic Church, right? But they still wanted to participate in pagan traditions and ceremonies. They just created different holidays with different people's names and stuff to try to make it acceptable. It's the same thing here with the Protestants. They still wanted to celebrate OG pagan holidays, and so as a result, they just made different people and tried to say that they have a different origin. He's nothing like Santa Claus, right? Or he's nothing like Saint Nicholas, or he's nothing like whatever you guys are worshiping or idolizing during this time period. And so they got a lot of backlash for the whole Kris Kendall thing, and as a result, they ended up coming up with a second guy, and this guy is known as Sinterklaas. Now, this is when it gets a little racist. I'm not going to get into who Black Peter is. Y'all look up who Black Peter is, okay? Y'all look up Black Peter and tell me that's not racist, okay? But this, mind you, this is all European stuff. So, like, look up Black Peter and Sinterklaas, and you tell me that ain't racist. But, anyways, he arrived. Sinterklaas would come and arrive not on December 25th, but on December 6th. You just looked up Black Peter?
Yeah.
You just looked up Black Peter. That's crazy.
The first picture it's not funny. That's so racist.
Bro. I told you, bro. Look, chat. Just look up, please. Do yourself a favor and look up Black Peter.
Who was the other one?
Who?
You said Black Peter and who?
No. I mean, Black Peter is the guy. I'm saying Sinterklaas is Black Peter's massa, basically.
Oh. Okay.
But you've never seen Django? It's like that. I'm assuming it's. I don't know. I wasn't there. Anyways, Black Peter. That's just racist. Let's move on. Again, just kind of backtracking about what we just talked about. Sinterklaas, he would show up on December 6th, and he became an acceptable replacement for the Saint Nicholas that they would celebrate And so that kind of brings us to America, right? How does Santa get from pagan times to the Romans and the Greeks to the Roman Catholic Church to the Protestant Church to eventually America? How do we get here, right? Well, let me start off by saying Christmas was made official in America in June 1870. So if we kind of backtrack a little bit about a little bit earlier, let me see. They didn't actually recognize in the Scottish Parliament, they didn't recognize Christmas to be official until 1958. If that date is accurate, if the date that they gave me is accurate, that's how long is that? That's a long time. That's a long time. That is a very long time that we were already recognizing Santa to be who he is, right? And so I'm sorry, got to get back to where I was. It's a lot of information. I'm right here. So Santa Claus being brought to America, they credit three men for being responsible for pushing the Santa Claus narrative. Those three men are Washington Irving, Clement Clark Moore, and Thomas Nast. Clement Clark Moore sounds like an NFL cornerback or something, right? It's picked off by Clement Clark Moore. But it sounds good. It sounds good. But anyways, Washington Irving, yeah, he sounds like he sounds like he works on Wall Street and has a lot of people's savings bonds. And Thomas Nast, Thomas Nast. I don't know. He sounds like he trained the Flash or something. I don't know. But anyways, Irving wrote a history book that included Santa's myth, stating that the Dutchess brought the tradition to the Americas, and that statement's basically his statements are what lit the spark of Santa Claus. Like, yo, like, let's celebrate this, right? That's where people kind of started getting the thought process here in America of even recognizing this being, right? And based off of Irving's really Irving didn't really do much. Let's just be honest. Irving didn't really do much but just introduce the thought. It was then when Clark Moore would go on to write the poem The Night Before Christmas. Now, that poem was actually the first written account in the Americas, along with the descriptions of Santa Claus and, him coming down the chimney, the sleigh, the reindeers and their names, the stockings being hung, his rosy cheeks, and his red coat as well. That he kind of gave us that modern day description of that. And in that poem, and most of you have seen that poem or read the poem, even if you haven't seen or read it, you probably have heard it or seen a Disney version of it. You know what I'm talking about. The Night Before Christmas. I'm sure you've heard that name before. He was the guy who wrote it, and Thomas Nast was an artist who basically gave the blueprint that Coke would later go on to make the modern day Santa that we know. But he was the OG that really gave Santa Claus with the beard, and he's the one who basically what Nast did. Nast filled in all the holes that was left in Clark Moore's poem. Basically, like, where did he get the presents from? You know what I'm saying? Where does Santa live? Stuff like that. That is what Nast did. He kind of filled in all those holes. He brought about the Santa's workshop. He brought about Santa living in the North Pole. And I've never heard of this, but it's a place called Santa Clausville, right? weird as hell. Never heard of that. But there's that. He brought about the naughty and nice list and how Santa's looking at you through his telescope. And I don't know where he knows when you're sleeping or awake part came from, though. That's honestly disturbing. That's pretty disturbing, but we are brought here to today. We're here on today, right? Where modern day Santa Claus is still evolving, right? Still evolving. I never knew this, but the author of the author of the Wizard of Oz wrote a book on Santa's life and how he became immortal. Did you know that?
No.
He wrote the book. It's called Santa is Coming to Town. Wait. No, I'm sorry. That's not the book. The book is called Santa's Life and How He Became Immortal. I think that's not true either. That's not true. I forget the name of the book. All right. But the author of The Wizard of Oz wrote it. I can do a little bit of research on that, and I'll be able to actually look that up. Look up the author of The Wizard of Oz. Google the author of The Wizard of Oz, Santa's book, something like that, right? So we can get the name for the people. But he did that, and then there's a bunch of other different stories that are constantly evolving and changing the narrative of Christmas that we have today. And you might be thinking like what, but like even like the movie, The Santa Claus is Coming to Town, that movie, that's where I thought about it at, because I'm ahead of myself in my brain. But the movie Santa Claus is Coming to Town it used to come on ABC Family, which is now, for those who are wondering what happened at ABC Family, it's the 25 Days of Christmas. It's on Freeform. It used to be ABC Family, and now it's Freeform. It's owned by different people. It still exists. But anyways, you used to watch that all the time. 25 Days of Christmas, Santa's Coming to Town, where you see young Santa Claus, young Kris Kringle, and you basically see how he goes through his life and stuff like that in that very terribly animated movie. You also have the Polar Express, where they add to the narrative that you can only hear Santa's sleigh bells if you truly believe in it, right? And some people say that. Let me see. So his name, I'm so sorry. His name is Frank Baum, Baums, and it's called The Life and Adventures of Santa. And that was first published in 1902, 2 years after The Wizard of Oz was made. So go and check that out. Again, it's called The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. And it's made by the same guy who made The Wizard of Oz, because you're not going to remember Frank Baum. I didn't remember that, and I just found it out like yesterday. I don't remember who Frank Baum was, but I remember The Wizard of Oz. But even the Polar Express kind of brought about, the whole you can only hear if you believe. The movie Elf. If you've never seen Elf, you live with Patrick under a rock. Elf is a great movie. You need to go watch it. Will Ferrell did his thing in that movie. It's still one of my favorite movies of all time for Christmas, where in the end it brings about that Santa's sleigh doesn't just fly on reindeer power. It's actually powered by the spirit of Christmas, the belief of the people. And
so if you don't believe, you don't get no presents.
So basically, basically the whole concept of Elf is when people stop believing, Santa stops existing. Therefore, nobody gets anything. When enough people say, all right, I don't believe this shit no more, then he no longer exists. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That is, it's not even that he no longer exists. He just can't fly to drop off the presents, basically. In Elf, that's what it is. But the narrative now that is being pushed throughout the holidays, I'm starting to notice a trend, and hopefully you notice the trend too throughout today, or throughout the Santa Claus is Evolving segment, is that most of these movies today all revolve around what? Your faith in Santa Claus, which is weird because is weird. It's weird to me because Santa Claus, it's almost like they're trying to bring God and Santa to as one, right? Believe in me and I'll give you presents, right?
Right.
But God never says believe in me and I'll give you presents. Like eternal life isn't a present. It's not like it is a gift, right?
Uh-huh.
But I wouldn't categorize it as a present. Like a present to me, see, let me be real careful with how I word this. Christmas is very materialistic.
And God is not.
And God is not. So the two to me are day and night.
Right.
Now, with that being said, I'm not telling anybody don't celebrate Christmas, bro. Look, I got a Christmas hat on. I got on the red suit. You feel me? We got Christmas stuff in the back. I'm a firm believer in it's the energy behind what you're doing, right? Because ignorance is bliss, and we have absolutely no way of knowing what it is. We really don't know the origins of what we're doing. People don't read anymore. Nowadays, we live in a world of technology where you don't necessarily even have to read. You can highlight text and it'll read it for you, right? But people are too lazy to even do that. It's very hard to fasten our time together. Like our time, our life, our history. It's hard to do that. And it doesn't make sense because thousands of years ago, we had record keeping, right? So how is it that all these records are just so jumbled and messed up and altered? It seems to me that it's deliberate. I don't see how you accidentally mess up that much history. Like the dude Mithra of Mithras, who was supposedly born on December 25th and did all this extra stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of him before a day in my life. Never a day in my life. Just kind of getting back on topic, man. The power that God gives us is way stronger than any origin story, than any origin story. With that being said, the origin of Christmas, the origin of the winter solstice, the origin of all that stuff may seem and sound very, very dark. And to me, when I first started researching this stuff, I was thinking like, yo, I will never celebrate. Like, I don't even want Christmas stuff around me, right? But what you got to understand is I grew up in a household. I grew up around Christmas time. It was, yeah, you got presents and stuff like that, but my parents never lied to me. My grandparents never lied to me. There was no Santa. Like, I knew from an early age. I was one of those kids, bro. If you believed in Santa Claus, you were gonna be mad at me because I'm gonna tell you your mom's buying those gifts, not Santa.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
Or your dad. Like, I was gonna say your mom because my dad wasn't really around like that. For those who don't know, so like, I wouldn't really say your dad. But regardless, though, it's like you can take something that might have been meant to hurt and harm, and you can make it something else. And so with the tradition of Christmas not necessarily being, how do I word this? Basically make Christmas what you want it to be.
You don't have to believe in Santa if that's not what you want to, or what you want your household to grow up doing.
Exactly. You don't have to give in to the concept of a false idol, because that's essentially what Santa Claus is. He is an idol that we're taught as children to respect because he can see us at all times, and that if you're good, if you behave the way that he wants you to, that you'll be rewarded. And me personally, my son will want, he's gonna grow up knowing that this day is not the day that Jesus was born, but is the day that we recognize the birth of Jesus Christ. See what I'm saying? The Bible never tells us when his birthday is. That doesn't mean we can't celebrate it, right? We can choose to celebrate Jesus' birthday on December 25th. it can still be called Christmas. But remember that when you say the word Christmas, you're referring to Jesus Christ, not Santa Claus. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's really it for me. You know what I'm saying? I know this one wasn't really a whole hour long per se, but I got a lot of to this. This was really just a lot of information that I just kind of threw out there, and I know it was kind of quick on the quicker side. But if I touched on anything, and anybody has any questions on any of the stuff that was said, like definitely let me know. You know what I'm saying?
I have a question.
Type in the chat. What's up, babe?
So, going back to the naughty and nice list.
Right. What's up?
How can you even? It's so much going on in the world. How can you really say?
How can you make the nice list, right?
Yeah.
How does anybody make the nice list?
Like you just don't do nothing in the world. Like you have to be a baby.
I guess it depends on what set you bang. You bang Christmas or Hanukkah? Oh, all right.
But even if I do, say I bang Christmas, regardless of if I bang Christmas or not, I still don't know.
You still might get cold, right?
Right.
I don't know. It's all dark because throughout a lot of the research I've been doing these past few weeks, you know that I've a lot of dark stuff has come to light as far as
Santa being like a devil, almost a demon.
There's that too. Some people believe there's a lot of different Christmas theories. Some people believe that Santa, part of the reason that Christmas was banned early on is that some people actually believe Santa Claus to be a demon and would tell their children that if you go outside, that Santa's going to come and get you. And
take you on his sleigh.
And he will put you in his bag and take you on his sleigh. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't gonna get into this, but I will, I guess since we got time, I can go ahead and get into it. There's a whole demon surrounding Christmas that everybody nowadays kind of celebrates but didn't before. And that's Krampus. Like what?
I know. He's always been, that name has just always set a bad tone for me.
Set a bad tone?
Yeah, like I don't know if it's just all the stories and the movies that I heard. There's nothing good that I've heard come from the name Krampus.
Well, that's because all the good, essentially, Santa and Krampus are the winter solstice or Christmas's yin and yang, right?
Mm-hmm.
Santa's supposed to be the one to bring you presents and gifts and whatnot, while if you were naughty, Krampus is just gonna come and whoop you with his whip. Gotta be racist. No, I'm just playing. but like it was to the point where I'm not sure where this is. I'm not sure where this was. A lot of my notes had got deleted, which is why I had to do a lot of last minute research today to kind of get some of my notes back. A lot of my notes got deleted about this topic, and I had a lot of notes on Krampus, but I don't have them anymore, and I didn't want to waste time researching Krampus. I wanted to get more into the point, which is kind of why I tried to have this as organized as possible, but it jumped around a little bit, but I think it ran rather smoothly. But anyways, some people recognize Krampus and would dress up as Krampus. And for those who don't know, Krampus is some half man, half demon goat that walks up on two and is supposedly like best buds with Santa. And like I said, he'll whip you and all that stuff. But the misconception is that there's only one Krampus. There's supposedly lots of Krampuses, a lot of demon-headed goatmen, right? Mm-hmm. And on holidays, I don't know where this is, but in certain holidays, remember originally people would get drunk during this day. Well, that's what people who celebrate the Krampus version of Christmas do. They get drunk and they walk in the streets and they dress up like a demon-headed goat man
with their whips.
With their whips. with their whips. No, I'm dead, and they roam the streets drunk, like whipping people. I don't know. I don't know.
That's get out your car.
You just get out your car and you just like what? Get out of here, dude. like get out of here. But yeah, like if you want a Christmas segment, y'all let me know. I mean, not a Christmas. If y'all want a Krampus Christmas segment, y'all let me know. That would get a lot darker though, because then we would start getting into the dark side of Christmas. I didn't necessarily want to. We're in being lighthearted, but also give out the real information that like most people don't really know where a lot of these traditions come from, as far as why do we bring in a tree? Why do we decorate a tree? And all that stuff. And there's even accounts where, I forget, there's a passage in the Bible where they tell you where it's basically said to not, where they would go, where people would go into the tree or into the forest, cut down a tree, and would decorate it with silver and gold, right? Mm-hmm. That sounds like a Christmas tree, but upon further research, they actually said that there were like actual literal, like it was a lot more literal than what people try to make it out to be. That there was an actual thing where people would go cut down a tree and make like a wooden post and would make like a silver head and put it on the post and would decorate it with, you know, silver and gold and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. Like when they used to cut off the pig's head and put it on the thing.
Similar. I'm not necessarily sure what the pig represented or anything like that, but these beings that I'm referring to are these, not necessarily, because it's not a being, it's an idol basically. These idols that I'm referring to are exactly that. They're idols that people would worship. They would make these things and they would worship them and surround them around silver and gold. And a lot of people with some misconception that they would say like, some Christians think that that's saying that like you shouldn't, you know, celebrate Christmas, or you shouldn't, God said not to celebrate Christmas, stuff like that.
That's not exactly what he said. He just said don't idolize anyone above me.
And that's what I'm getting at here. You can celebrate Christmas. Do not idolize or do not prioritize the wrong shit. Stay focused. A lot of people swear up and down they woke. And I will say that it's a lot more real information, I feel like, out now than people realize or are willing to give credit for. But with all that being said, you know, just kind of in closing, we already know that all the information, or that 99.9% of the information that we get, is filtered. So you just kind of gotta take what you will at a grain of salt. And really, what I want everybody to do this Christmas is remember what, if you claim to be a Christian, or if you claim to believe in God, if you claim to be a believer, remember why we're celebrating this holiday. It's not about presents. It's not about a fat man in a red suit. It's not about a naughty or a nice list, because the only list I'm worried about is the list on Judgment Day. That's the only naughty or nice list I'm worried about. Which side of that I'm going to be on Judgment Day. Not once a year. Not once a year am I worried about that. I'm worried about that for eternity. So, again, this isn't to change anybody's beliefs, thoughts. It's just good information, man. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I know she looks kind of weird over here in this corner, but yeah. But yeah, is there any other things that you wanted to say? Any more questions? Or?
No, not really.
Not really. No. For sure. Well, I guess we'll just end off on a
high note.
On a high note.